I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyabaking.com. Today we're going to make lemon bars, and this is what they look like. On the bottom we have this buttery crisp shortbread crust. We're going to top that with a creamy smooth lemon filling, and then the top we dust with powdered sugar. So the first thing that you will need to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need an 8-inch square pan that's 20 centimeters. I like to line the pan, both the bottom and the sides, with foil and kind of have the foil like an overlap, so that way we can easily get the baked lemon bars out of the pan by just lifting up the edges of the foil. And then what I like to do is either you could butter the foil, which I'm going to do, or you could just spray it with one of those non-stick sprays. So what I do is just melt a little bit of butter, and then I'm using a pastry brush just to brush the bottom and the sides. That way our lemon bars won't stick to the foil. Okay. It's good. So now, we're going to start with our shortbread crust. If you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment. You could use a hand mixer, or really we're just mixing all the ingredients together, so you could just use a bowl with a wooden spoon. So shortbread, 4 ingredients: butter, sugar, flour, salt. That's it. So the first thing you will need is a half a cup, 113 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter. I just like the flavor better, and also I like to control the amount of salt in a recipe, but if you have a favorite salted butter, then go ahead and use that. And have your butter at room temperature. I'm just going to beat this on medium-low speed just until it's nice and smooth. Okay. And whenever you're making any kind of batter, periodically stop and scrape down the sides and bottom of your bowl. You want to make sure everything gets mixed together. So next, we're going to add a 1/4 cup, which is 30 grams of confectioner's sugar. You may know that as powdered or icing sugar. Put that in there, and I'm just going to beat it on medium speed just until everything's mixed together. We want a dense textured shortbread, so this is not about beating air into the batter, simply about mixing them together. Okay, so a quick scrape there. Everything's sticking. So next, I have in a separate bowl 1 cup, which is 130 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And then I'm just going to add a 1/4 teaspoon, 1 gram of salt to that, and then just stir it together. So if you used salted butter, then I just would leave out that salt. And then I'm just going to add that. And again, I'm going to beat this on medium speed. Now I want all the flour to be coated with the butter and sugar mixture, but I don't want a solid ball of dough. I want it just to start to come together, so don't over mix. Okay, we're done. So as you can see, you could just do this by hand very easily. So now, it's not a solid, but it's coming together. All the flour is moistened. I get as much as I can off that paddle attachment. So now I'm just going to put this in the pan. Okay. So now I just normally use my fingers for this to spread it out, just kind of. You can use like an offset spatula or the back of a spoon, but you know what? I find my fingers do just as good. If you find it really sticky as you're spreading it out, you could just like lightly flour your fingertips there. Important thing is to get it, you know, as even a layer as you can. Make sure you get in the corners. So I like to run, but you know, if you run your fingers over this, you can kind of feel if it's even, nice even layer. And then if you want to smooth it out, you can take the back of a spoon or your offset spatula and just run it over the top. So, feels good. So now, everyone's oven is a little different. What we're looking for here is we want it to start to brown, a little browner at the, you know, you can really see the brown around the edges of the shortbread and a light brown on the center top of your shortbread. So that's going to take, depending on your oven, about 18 to 20 minutes. I do like to rotate my baking pan front to back about halfway through baking, so 18, 20 minutes. Okay, so our shortbread crust is baked. The reason we pre-baked our shortbread crust is so that once we add the lemon filling and we put it back in the oven, that lemon filling isn't going to be absorbed into the crust as it bakes. Because when you have a lemon bar, you want two distinct layers. So that's how you get it, by pre-baking your shortbread crust. So as you can see here, some browning on the top and around the edges. So that's the way we want it. Now, our lemon filling. The first thing is the lemons. The flavor of the lemon comes both from the outside, the zest, which is the outside yellow skin, and from the juice. And we're going to use both here. So whenever you buy lemons, try to buy organic. And what you want when you're, you know, going through them is try to find ones that feel heavy for their size, and that way you know there's lots of juice in there. So always wash your lemons with soap and water, rinse them and then dry them off. And we're going to take off the zest first. So you can do that with a microplane or a box grater. And when you grate, you only want to get that outside yellow skin, not that white underneath, because that's kind of bitter. So what you want to do is get 1 tablespoon, which is 5 grams. And if you're using a tablespoon, I've already done this, so you don't have to watch me, kind of pat it into your tablespoon because it's very fluffy. So once you do that, then you want to cut your lemon in half. What I do always is I kind of just press down on the lemon gently, and that kind of releases the juices. And then cut it in half, and then I've just got a juicer here. There's those hand ones too you can use. Get all the juice out, and then I take my measuring cup, put a strainer, and pour your juice through that because there's some pulp and some seeds, and we don't want that in there. And so you will need 1/3 of a cup, which is 80 milliliters, 80 grams of freshly squeezed lemon juice. So if you're using like a heavy lemon, this size, I found 2. But you might want to buy a little extra because you never know. So we've done that. And then what I like to do, there's so much flavor in that lemon zest. So what I have here is 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated white sugar. And I'm going to actually dump my lemon zest in there, because if you can see, it's kind of like a clump. And we don't want like a clump in our lemon filling where you get this real, that's all you get is lemon zest. So what I do is I take a fork and I just kind of mix it in. And that way it kind of separates the lemon zest. Plus, there's lots of oil in that zest, and that will get in the sugar, and you'll get even more lemon flavor. And you know, another thing about lemons, it's a fruit. It can, you know, depending on the time of year, the type that you use, you know, one time you make your lemon bars, they might be really like almost sour, and other times not. So that's just the nature of the lemon. So just, okay. Oh, I can just smell it. It's wonderful. And to that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, which is 20 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. That's going to thicken up our lemon juice, or lemon filling, I should say. And then I'm just adding like just a pinch, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Salt always brings out the flavors, so that's that. I'm just going to make the lemon filling by hand. You could use your mixer, but I couldn't be bothered washing my bowl in between, so I'm going to do it by hand. So I have 2 large eggs, that's 100 grams without the shell, and have your eggs at room temperature. I'm just going to whisk them, break it up. When you make a lemon filling, you don't want to beat too much air into it. If you do, what you will find is as the lemon filling bakes, it'll kind of rise up more than, you know, and then kind of sink down, which is okay, but really all we're doing is mixing everything together again, like we did with the shortbread crust. So that's that. Oh. See if I can. I'm going to add, you know, part of the sugar. Whisk that in. It's nice and smooth, and then I'll just add the rest. As you can see, it's not very hard to make, and they are so good. Okay. That looks good, and then don't want to forget our lemon juice. Spatula. And that's it. I mean, we're going to bake them and we're going to have yummy bars. Okay, that looks good. I'm just going to pour that over the top. And then we're going to bake it just until it's set. So again, I'm going to say 18 to 20 minutes. And you may get some browning on the top. The way I always tell if it's set is I take the, like when the pan's in the oven, at the end of it, and then just kind of gently shake it. And if it doesn't wobble, if it's set, then you know it's done. So I'm going to say 18 to 20 minutes. Use your mitts. Pan's hot. So our lemon bars are done. If I shake the pan, it doesn't wobble, so that's what you're looking for. There is a little browning around the edges and a little on top. That's perfectly normal. And what's interesting, we'll see this when we cut it, but when you bake a lemon filling, it kind of separates into 2 layers. And as you can see here, that's almost like a crust. And then underneath, we're going to have that creamy lemon filling. But we'll see that when we cut them. So now, I put the pan on a wire rack. We're going to let them cool down to room temperature. And then what I like to do is take the whole pan, put it into the refrigerator for about an hour. That will firm them up. And it'd be much easier to cut them. So that's what we're going to do. And then when we come back, we will try one. So now we're going to cut our lemon bars. You want to peel back the foil. Sometimes it sticks, so just take a knife and kind of help separate it like so. And then you will need a sharp knife. I do have a glass of hot water because, okay, we're gonna cut this. Down. And your knife gets a little messy. And sometimes that lemon filling can actually stick to your knife. So it's good to either run it under your tap or have a glass of hot water there and a paper towel. Now you can cut them as big or small as you want. So I tend to do 4 and 4. So I get 16, actually they're squares. That's why a lot of times these are actually called lemon squares or even lemon slices. So bars, squares, slices. Okay. So you get the idea. This is to cut them. And then, now we're going to dust the top with powdered sugar. I find I don't do that until shortly before serving, especially if I cover them and I like to store them in the refrigerator overnight. If you kind of put the powdered sugar on and then put them in the fridge, that powdered sugar kind of melts into the filling. So I like to put the powdered sugar just before I serve. So I just get your, and then, so what you do is, I'll just do a couple. Put your powdered sugar in a strainer or if you have an actual sifter, and then just dust the tops. What I do is I have a rack over a pan because then I can keep that sugar after. So that's what you do. You know, one of the things that make lemon bars so instantly recognizable is the fact that you put that lots of powdered sugar on the top. So let's try one. I'm just gonna cut that. I love the ends, so. That is really good. I've been making these, well, maybe too long, since Rick and I got married. And, you know, if you can see here, they are just so good. You have that, as you can see, that the 3 distinct layers, that bottom shortbread crust, which is buttery and it's crisp and kind of crumbly. So that's why we, like I said in the video, why we pre-bake that, so that the lemon filling doesn't soak into it while it bakes. And then you have that wonderful lemon filling. And it did separate, like I said, you get a little kind of top crust and underneath it's so creamy smooth and a really nice, you know, not overly tart because we did use a fair amount of sugar, just the perfect amount, I think. And then of course that powdered sugar on top that tempers that tart and tangy lemon filling. These are just so good. You have to make them. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyBaking.com.